Thanks. Well, in the past few weeks, you were introduced to and applied the heuristic of teamwork to help you identify and understand key collaboration dynamics, namely the who, what, when, where, how, and why of collaboration. So please continue to use that heuristic to help you approach learning material as we proceed. Now, in this last introductory part where we're providing a more context and background about collaboration, we're going to be addressing the nuanced manifestations of collaboration as well as the connection between innovation and collaboration. So collaboration is a nuanced governance practice that doesn't necessarily look the same across the board. While some approaches to collaboration aim to be transformational, others are more transactional in nature. Generally speaking, collaboration can be bucketed into three main categories. That's collaboration, coordination, and cooperation. So collaborating denotes something that is transformational. There are higher levels of interdependence in meeting a common goal, connecting to each party's mission and vision. Additionally, with collaboration, there's intense, constant working together to develop and execute mutual goals. And success of each individual party is strongly tied to the success of the collaborative unit, where lack of a successful collaboration can have dire consequences individually. And lastly, executing tasks at the collaboration level requires high levels of trust and vulnerability. Now, the coordinating dimension, and that's more transactional and transformational, so it's somewhere in between. Now here, there's a medium level of interdependence in meeting a common goal, but each individual party may still have varying missions and visions. Also with coordinating, there is consistently working together with each other to accomplish goals. And the success of each individual party is somewhat tied to the collective, but can still be achieved without it. And then lastly, with coordinating, trust is certainly important, but may only go to a certain point where deep vulnerability is not reached or necessary. And then with cooperating, that's definitely more the transactional component if you look at this on a continuum. So with cooperating, there's medium to minimal interdependence in meeting goals. The frequency of working together can range from constant to minimal. The success of each individual can still be obtained as they may still have a high degree of operating alone without other actors. And then lastly, while trust is certainly beneficial, it is not a necessary condition as cooperation can also be legally and formally compelled. So considerations for each approach. Under what condition does collaboration, coordination, as opposed to cooperation occur? And what are the drivers for each manifestation of these nuanced practices? Another question to think about is, are these fixed practices, fixed approaches, or can a single collaborative initiative exhibit all three at some point in time? If so, what may prompt the change and or fluidity among all of these manifestations of collaboration? And lastly, another question to consider, does each approach manifest itself differently based on units that operate within the collaboration? So for instance, are things different if there is a more vertical or flat collaborative construction, or perhaps something is varied based on if it's horizontal or hierarchical in its format? Now let's move on to innovation. Now, one of the ways that I personally like to grasp a topic or grasp the depth of an idea or principle or theory is sometimes I start with a word study. Now, word studies can be really, I would say, illuminating because it gets you to the root of a word and what it was initially meant to do, meant to convey. So let's take the word innovation. So innovation was derived from the 1540s, and it comes from the Latin term innovatus. And it is a term that means introduce as new, but it also means to renew, to restore, and it can also mean to change. And so the meanings can also expand to bringing in new things, alter established practices. So when we look at this in connection to the public sector, you might be aware already that innovation in the public sector has become increasingly more emphasized because of the supposed benefits of innovation in achieving public aims in a more efficient way. However, there are some debates about this emphasis as it conjures the question, does innovation happen for real progress or just for the sake of innovation? Thus, when you're considering the connection between collaboration and innovation in the public sector, it's first useful to understand some key points that can be summarized in the form of pros and cons to innovation in the public sector. So let's look at this from an innovation for collaboration versus innovation by collaboration. So when you have innovation for collaboration, there's a key question in mind here. What new or tweaked processes, structures, leadership approaches, management practices, actors, and tools can be used to improve the efficiency, impact, and effectiveness for an existing collaborative agreement? And that's slightly different than innovation by collaboration. And that has this underlying question of how does the creation or use of a collaboration act as a new response to an existing wicked problem or wicked problems? Okay, so that is it for this micro lecture. So here's your checklist for the next 2 weeks. You want to be asking yourself, have I gone through and reviewed this lecture and the extended interactive slide deck at least twice? In addition to the required readings, have I challenged myself with a challenge reading? Now again, I do include these into your syllabus because it can help you to really stretch your self-guided learning as well as get you more used to reading academic text. Another item on your checklist, you've made notes on the case study based on this new learning material, whether it's for your analysis, recommendations, or even lessons learned. And then you're also developing questions from this week's readings and you're posting them on the hallway to engage with me, your professor, or your fellow classmates. Or you have used dedicated study time with a classmate to review material and questions. And then you want to make sure that you've completed the discussion board assignments on Canvas, due on February 21st and the 28th. And then before you post the responses, you want to make sure that you're looking at that rubric very carefully to make sure that you are hitting all the key marks. And then you want to make sure that you've practiced your formal writing skills and your speed reading. And then lastly, you want to make sure that you have made an entry in your glossary of terms. And this is important because you don't want to come to the end of the semester and then cram to create your entire glossary. And then lastly, always make sure to keep up with your self-care, your community building, and productivity practices. And as always, if you need help, then please let me know.